And we'll start again. There you go.
Okay, so my name is Savina and the claim that I'm responding to is that abortion improves the quality of health of the general public. The three secondary claims in that speech were abortion can be used as an emergency procedure, abortion lowers crime rates, and abortion can be used to prevent pregnancy-related health issues. So first of all, the first claim that abortion can be used as an emergency procedure is in itself not really relevant to the original proposition. I don't see how the fact that it is an emergency procedure I don't see how that relates to improving the quality of health of the general public. So that could have been reworded. It was stated that abortion can be used as a safety net after having an unintended pregnancy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the public health is improved. The second backing for that claim was that a couple can decide after conception whether they would like to keep the child or not. Basically, it was stated that a couple can decide to have a child and then 2 weeks later decide that they don't want the child, but I feel like that's not really an emergency procedure, that's just a change of mind, and once again, that doesn't really improve the quality of health of the general public. In fact, it could actually harm the health of the woman, having the increased hormonal changes by getting pregnant and then immediately having an abortion or having a pregnancy terminated. Lastly, in that claim, it was brought up that the abortion versus adoption issue is brought up, where couples don't know whether they should put a child for adoption or whether they should abort it. But once again, that's unrelated to the original claim that improves the quality of health of the public. It's also stated that having an abortion relieves stress, but there was no evidence given, no statistic given, it was merely a quote stated. However, the Elliott Institute for Social Science Research conducted a study on, I believe, about 400 women who had abortions, and they reported that over 90% of women after their abortion had self-esteem damage, 50% began drinking or consuming drugs, 60% reported suicidal thoughts, 28% actually attempted suicide, and 50% clearly stated that they suffered full-blown post-traumatic stress disorder. None of these statistics show any proof of being stress-free after an abortion. So the second claim was abortion lowers crime rates. Once again, I don't believe this directly relates to the claim that abortion improves the quality of health of the general public. The reasoning behind it was that if a child is brought up in a poor environment, they're more likely to commit crimes. Once again, there is no evidence really backing that statement. There was a statistic that 50% of the drop in crimes came from the ability to have abortion after the Roe versus Wade decision, but that statistic alone it does not account for a lot of different things, such as the time, and just a bunch of things. So, for example, it was claimed by Freakonomics authors, but it is scientifically proven by statisticians Kaiser Fung and Andrew Feldman in the latest issue of American Scientist that the Freakonomics authors tend to make many reasoning mistakes when they make their conclusions, such as making them purely data-driven and extremely speculative. So the abortion lowers crime rates did not really prove that abortion improves the quality of health of the general public. The last claim was that abortion prevents pregnancy-related health issues. Once again, it doesn't really mean that it improved the health of the general public. It might improve one woman's health, but it is stated that if someone gets pregnant and then gets a life-threatening disease such as thrombosis, their only option for treatment is abortion. However, the likeliness of getting this condition, such as thrombosis, is 1 in 1,000 women, and there are many preventative measures. So it's not like, and there's treatment for it, such as blood thinners and stuff like that. So it's not like your only option is to have an abortion. Therefore, saying that abortions prevent life-threatening conditions isn't sufficient enough to make the claim that it improves the health of the public. It is also brought up that abortion solves the rape issue in the sense that if abortion is a woman is relieved from a child conceived through rape, by having abortion. However, that doesn't, it's obvious that that doesn't necessarily mean it's improving her health. For example, she could have contracted an infection or a disease during the rape, which won't be solved by having an abortion. So, also, and not just that, she also has a mental trauma of being raped, which abortion doesn't solve. So once again, abortion does not improve the quality of the health of the general public with that claim. In conclusion, while the claim of fact that abortion improves the quality of health of the general public is a valid claim of fact, none of the supporting claims or evidences in the speech related to the claim are convincing. Thank you. No hard feelings. I'm sorry.
I'm crying inside.
All right, you labeled the advocate's points very clearly, so it's easy to follow. On the first point, you challenged the relevance of the issue. In fact, you do that on most of the points, and it comes down to the same question, whether or not these things have to do with the quality of the general health of the population. And I thought that you raised some legitimate questions about the applicability in those situations. There are a couple of places where some additional information might have helped you in advancing your argument, but I thought you did a pretty good job explaining the way the advocate has reasoned and failed to make this applicable to that specific claim. You did have some counter evidence on a couple of points. I thought that the information on the stress issue, for instance, and showing that there are these negative consequences of abortion on the women who've had abortions, I thought that that was a good, clear response to the argument that the advocate presented. That was a good counterclaim. There's a challenge on the second point to the Freakonomics argument and an explanation about how they make some huge inferential leaps. It's not particular to the abortion issue. I think that that would be helpful. One of the things that would be helpful also would be a demonstration of some of the other variables that probably weren't accounted for in that time period. I mean, we're talking about almost a 50-year period at this point, 45-year period since Roe versus Wade. And, a lot of things have changed in that time period. For example, we've had the rise and fall of various kinds of drug use. We've had an increase in the amount of prison time that's given. We've had changes in sentencing. You've had 3 strikes laws put in place. We've had more widespread social services available. The inference here that this is accountable because of this particular action, that seems to be a phenomenally big inferential leap that the advocates are making. And then I think your evidence would make it even clearer. Then you could present that point of evidence that talks about how they have a tendency to do that in most of their arguments. I thought that that would have made that work a little bit better. You diminished the argument about the potential threats to women who are pregnant. I thought you did that pretty effectively, given the example that the advocate presented. That was also very solid. Your kind of analysis on the rape issue I thought was reasonable. Be careful about saying it's a valid claim of fact. It is a claim of fact. Saying it's valid says, well, it's true, but they didn't prove it. That's not really the position I think you're taking. I think you're taking the position that is, we have nothing here that demonstrates that abortion has improved the America's health in any way, except that it's prevented the birth of a number of children, and the demonstration that that is a healthy thing has yet to be presented. All right, thank you.